Hi, Josh and Craig. I'm Rishi from India, and How I Met Your Mother was the first English TV series I ever watched before I knew what a sitcom was. And to me, it's never been a sitcom. To me, it's been a beautifully written, slow burn drama, aided by very organic bits of endearing, if slightly dorky comedy. And I adored the development of the slightly flawed characters, and especially the way the show plays with time. I absolutely love that, and it's a just masterful filmmaking. It just lets every emotion soak in unapologetically, and in a way, the creators of the show are the hopeless romantics of filmmaking. So here's How I Met Your Mother: timidly bold, subtly adventurous, and the slow burn drama with a side of comedy. That's what it is to me.
I'm alone. What a pity I won't be soon in New York City. When I see you, please permit me to tell you everything in New York City.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh Radner. I am joined by my friend Craig Thomas. Hello, Craig.
Hello, my friend.
This is How We Made Your Mother. We are talking about the TV series How I Met Your Mother, which Craig co-created with Carter Bays, ran from 2005 to 2014. I played Ted Mosby in every single episode of that show. 20 years after it premiered, 11 years after it went off the air, we are watching the whole thing with you, spilling the secrets, backstage drama, gossip. It's not that scandalous, but we are spilling trade secrets about how we made this show, what it was like to make this show, what is striking us about the rewatch. And what we're mostly interrogating at the heart of this is why this show is so beloved and enduring, and why it seems to meet people wherever they're at. And we're as delighted and mystified by that as you are, but we're really happy you're here.
Amen. Well said. Man, now I feel like I have to say something smart. We had a smart intro, then you said something smart. Here's all I have. Here's all I have. Alec loves our producer. He's here too. That's all I got.
Hi, Alec. Hi, Alec. So today we're talking about episode 9, Belly Full of Turkey. Originally aired when?
Originally on November 21st, 2005, written by Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
The great Lord and Miller, the great and Oscar-winning Lord and Miller. They won an Oscar for this episode of TV.
For this episode,
it's the only TV episode that's ever gotten an Oscar.
They thought it was so incredible.
So congrats to them for that. This is a great one. It's our first Thanksgiving episode. Those guys are the best. They wrote on season 1 of Him Yim and then went on to many great things, including really winning Oscar for the Spider-Verse movie. And Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is the movie that took them away from us and onto greater and incredible heights. The Lego movies, they're geniuses. We got 2 episodes of their geniuses in season 1, Sweet Taste of Liberty, and this one, Belly Full of Turkey. So we're excited to talk about it.
And we did talk about this around the Slutty Pumpkin, but it was always funny to be on set and you would be filming, the Halloween episode 6 weeks before Halloween, the Thanksgiving episode 6 weeks before Thanksgiving. Yeah. So it was like you were celebrating on set, because in this fictional context, you were really celebrating Halloween and Thanksgiving, but it was so out of step with the rest of the world and country. It was always a little disorienting.
Yeah, it sort of weirdly fit in Los Angeles, though, pretending in a place that had no seasons. So it was like, all right,
right.
We'll do it whenever.
It didn't matter anyway.
It didn't really matter. It sort of worked out. And I liked it because it made the holiday last. I always felt that way. I always felt like, oh, Christmas is right around the corner. It would be like October. We're shooting the Thanksgiving episode. But it just felt very festive. I actually loved that about it. I loved the early holidays we got to have.
So let's just for the folks at home who are maybe not rewatching with us, but who have seen it or don't remember it as well, let's just run through what happens in this episode.
Yeah. So the 2 main storylines in this episode, the sort of bigger story, is Lily is going back with Marshall to his hometown of St. Cloud, Minnesota, to do Thanksgiving with his family. Lily and Marshall have just gotten engaged, and Lily arrives in St. Cloud to discover that there is a lot more pressure and expectation on her to sort of fit into the Erickson clan and their way of life there in Minnesota, and it kind of freaks her out. And then Ted and Robin are both left behind. They both are not able to go home for Thanksgiving. I like that feeling of the sort of expat Thanksgiving. I used to have those in Los Angeles when we were doing the show. I'm from New York. We would do sort of figure out something to do with friends in Los Angeles and make our own Thanksgiving. Ted and Robin do that. They decide to do something good and go to a food shelter to feed people who could use some extra help. And they, much to their shock, they discover Barney Stinson there working, who is the superstar of feeding the hungry on Thanksgiving, and this makes no sense to them whatsoever.
Yeah.
Those are the two main storylines, yes?
Yeah. Was this the first time it was revealed that Lily is a native New Yorker, or had that come up before in the show?
I think it's come up a couple times talking about her being a Brooklyn girl, but this is the episode in which she says, like, no, I want to end up in Brooklyn. I want to have kids and end up in Brooklyn. Here we are living in Manhattan. The furthest I want to venture from where we are now is Brooklyn. And Marshall says, I might want to move back to St. Cloud. And they clearly have not discussed this as much as they should have.
Right.
Yeah, so she calls her Brooklyn shot here. This is the most pointedly she has been from Brooklyn in series, based on my wife, who's from Brooklyn, Park Slope.
And my wife, who grew up in the Upper East Side and now wants to leave Brooklyn ever. Even like I have to drag her to Manhattan. You know,
you are in Brooklyn as we speak.
It's true, but this is a real thing though with marriages. I mean, you know, love gets you maybe to the proposal. And then there's so much stuff to navigate and negotiate, especially geography. I mean, that's a huge one. And I just love, you know, so when you wrote Marshall, you didn't necessarily write him tall, right? Like you weren't thinking like Marshall has to be tall. Like he's from Minnesota from big people. But then you get Jason Segel, who's what, 6'4"?
6'4"?
6'4".
Yeah, the runt of the Erickson litter, as it turns out.
The runt of the litter, which is such a funny joke. But that's a good joke. That's a perfect example of the casting. Once you have your cast, you tailor the suit to the actor, right? And then Allison, who God bless her, is not a tall person, and you know, relative to Jason at least. But you have this funny. I mean, it's such a funny thing when she's like half their size, getting like pinballing around and kind of getting lost in the sea of bodies.
It's one of those storylines where like comedically you're on solid ground every time you cut to that storyline. Every time you're back in that world and she just comes up to the waistline of like 7 foot tall Ned Ralsma, Erickson brother. It's funny. It's just always funny. It makes me laugh every time we cut back to that storyline. It's just like, that is just such a good feeling when you're in edit and you realize you're just laughing every time you see that image. And it's just such a good image. The theme of it is like, it's an image that's funny, but it highlights the theme of the episode, which is trying to figure out how you fit into this new family now that you're going to be a, quote, future Mrs. Erickson, except she doesn't want to take that name. And that comes out at dinner and everyone's absolutely scandalized by that idea there. And
I thought Allie was so good at playing two things at once. Like she's playing the, like, I have a smile on my face and I'm trying to be like a good participant in this insane culture that I'm seeing. Yeah. And she's quietly like freaking out inside, but she freaks out in such a way that the audience knows she's freaking out, but you get the feeling the family doesn't quite know she's freaking out. Yeah, because she has to put that on for Marshall, and she loves him so much. But she's like, "Oh my dear God, what portal have I walked through into this other world that I don't fit in?" I love how she plays. This is one of my favorite Lily episodes. Certainly one of my favorite Lily episodes in season 1. I would argue this is the first time we really do like an episode where like Lily really gets to carry it. I just feel like this is her episode. I say that, and then of course there's so many great moments leading up to this, but I really feel like she is the emotional core of this episode, maybe in a way we hadn't done as much in those first 8 before this. And I love it. She's Allison Hannigan, man. She's good. She's good at acting. We've established that, but I will say it again. She's really good.
We'll say it again. She's good.
It also kind of illustrates like, you know, like U.S. politics is so insanely fractured, and it's kind of like, if you really look at America, it's like Europe. It's a collection of different countries that are like smashed together. Like Minnesota is different than New York City, is different than Utah, Ohio, California, like Texas. Like they're all these different cultures, and I think, you know, there's something so funny about a New Yorker dropped into kind of rural Minnesota and just what that provokes in her. But there's a lot going on. There's like feminism clashing with like traditional stuff. There's the size differences. There's, I mean, her fear that she's going to give birth to a 14-pound baby or whatever, how much it was.
So good.
It's so funny. The turkey.
Because every time you see that turkey, then once you realize the turkey equals her future baby, the turkey's funny every time you see it.
Yeah.
And that sort of act break shot where you're sort of like doing that thing of, zooming in and pulling back at the same time, and the back's falling out. It's like a Scorsese shot, and the turkey is just looming in the front of frame. Yeah. It's so great. And then from then on out, she's just always staring at that turkey, thinking she's got to push one of those through her vagina in a year.
And I wrote you this little ditty to sing to you in New York City.
We'll be right back. Craig, can you feel it?
I can feel it. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah, but you can feel it. Summer's approaching. Can you feel summer on its way?
Oh my God, it's so here. It's almost here. It's basically already here.
It's almost time for you to exodus out of here and get to your summer spot.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I have become a migrating bird. My family and I wanted to buy a place up in the Berkshires on a lake. And we went and saw a beautiful place, and we fell in love with this house, and we bought this house. It's on a lake in the country, in the woods, and it's just like, it's our happy place. And that's where we spend the summers now. And we were up there like 3 months. We're up there.
And it just sits there when you're not there, and you're just losing money every single day.
Wait a second.
You could be hosting on Airbnb.
You just trapped me. You made me walk right into that. I usually do that to you, and you've turned it around on me judo style. But yes, I'm letting it just go to waste. I'm doing nothing with the house. I'm just going to be brutally honest.
Let me tell you this. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host. And now, back to the show. Ted is always looking to the future as his salvation. Like Ted is always looking like, if I could just get these things to line up, the future's going to be glorious. I won't be struggling the way I'm struggling. Whereas Lily kind of looks at this particular future and she catastrophizes it,
Yes. She feels the walls closing in. She feels like she's entered some sort of like weird, like Handmaid's Tale adjacent to the universe where she'll have to birth these giant children
giant turkeys
for the good of the Republic. Just pushing giant turkeys out. Yeah. And her sense, her growing sense of kind of panic and displacement in this episode, it so conjures what it feels like in a way for. I think it's a very relatable thing to have a partner and you go into their world and now you're 100% in their world. You're on their terms. I'm going to say this very delicately. My wife is a really wonderful gourmet chef. She's Jewish. She's from Brooklyn. She just grew up with parents who were good cooks. She joined my family. We are Irish cooks. It's not the same. There is more mayonnaise. There's more mayonnaise involved in the cuisine. There's a lot more potatoes. Things are cooked differently. There are vegetables that Rebecca are green, and there are vegetables that maybe have grown more brown in their preparation in some of my family settings. People like to cook things a lot more in the Irish world, and I say all this with love for both sides of that debate. But a little bit of that went into this episode. But we went around the horn in the writers' room, and I remember everyone had some story like this. Of either they were the 7-layer mayo salad half of their couple, or they went into that. But we had a couple of people that were from the Midwest around that table, and they very much had, maybe not as insane as the 7-layer salad, but there was definitely talk of like gummy bears, crunched up potato chips. Like the 7-layer salad is actually not, to anyone unfamiliar, it exists in nature. There's versions of the salad that are very much, people in the writer's room very much remembered growing up eating iterations of, slightly toned down iterations of
Everyone has a normal childhood in as much as it's the only childhood you know.
Yeah, that's
right.
The one.
Like you're like, I don't know. It's only when you get older and you start actually comparing and you realize, oh, that was insane. Like, why are we eating that? Like that was bonkers. But everyone has a 7-layer salad.
Did you have that in Ohio? Do you have versions of that just growing up in Ohio?
We definitely had, like my sisters and I joke about certain meals my mom made that were part of the rotation that were like, oh, what was that? I mean, I remember there was this dish that we kind of loved.
Hi, Mrs. Radner.
Hi. But it was called chicken divan. It was chicken divan that had like a real mayonnaise-y sauce, and there was broccoli, chicken
Oh, yes.
and like lemony mayonnaise-y something. But but you know, we were from the land of you know, the green bean mushroom salad at Thanksgiving with the crispy onion rings on top. That's delicious. I will defend that.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's a nice texture, right? A little crunchy.
Irish people eat that. I know they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But there are those things about your childhood, whether it's you know, something with food or even Basque ice ball is like a thing, which I'm curious like where that came from. But there's something so funny about the weirdness of a family that to the family is like utterly normal. But to an outsider, you're like, what are you eating? Like, what are you doing? This is not how life is supposed to be lived or meals are supposed to be had.
Yeah, I really like the moment late in the episode. I mean, first of all, just like their scene, Jason and Allie's scene in the prison cell is great.
Oh, so good.
And it's
so
sort
good.
of the family that's so great. They're so lovable and real, and it's yet another moment where you just fall in love with that couple. And the moment she says she might be pregnant, his almost immediate response is, we can never let one of our children play basketball. It's a death trap. Like he sees it through like outside eyes for the first time in that moment. And then we've all had that sort of moment of clarity, right? Where you look back at your childhood, you go, oh, that was fucking weird. That was really weird what we used to do or what we were allowed to do. Sometimes just with my children now, raising kids in 2025, I think of like my friends and I, when we were 9, like my daughter's 9, my parents wouldn't know where we were for 16 hours because we were in the woods blowing shit up or whatever we were doing, riding like dirt bikes off of jumps next to a cliff. Like you're just like, what in God's name were we allowed to do? I'm getting a little bit into like old guide material now of like the kids today are different. But just seeing that through fresh eyes is a very sobering moment, right? You go, oh, that's weird. That's weird
Craig,
that my family did.
Have we talked about the podcast Heavyweight? Do you know Heavyweight?
No, I don't think so.
It's an amazing podcast. This guy, I think Jonathan Goldstein is his name, who hosts it. But it's basically like he talks to people who are carrying a heavy weight, like the kinds of things that keep you up at 3 a.m. Like, why did I do that thing? Or if only if I'd done this, my life would have been different. And there's this episode where this guy remembers in the 70s, his parents let him and his best friend and these 2 other, like maybe his cousins who were staying with them, drive their bikes from like Pennsylvania to like Connecticut or New Jersey. It was a 3-day, they were like 11, 10, and 9. And they took their bikes and they booked like 2 hotels to stay at. And it was just like the 70s crazy. Was like, just go to your uncle's, like just drive your bikes to your uncle. It was 3 days on bikes, driving like, 14 hours a day on bicycles.
Oh my God.
And it was, he was like, people don't believe me when I told them.
Child Services bike tour, the Child Protective Services bike tour. It happened once a year.
Like,
and then everyone went to jail at the end, at the finish line.
But I don't have kids, but I suspect that being a parent is a little bit of this negotiation of like, okay, I really appreciated this from my childhood. I really appreciated this from my parents, my childhood home, my schooling. I'm going to keep that. Here's a whole list of stuff. Under no circumstances am I keeping. Like, I'm getting rid of this.
You're curating. It is an artisanal process. It is a hand-picked curatorial. What are we leaving? What are we keeping? But then I think that's what's interesting about this episode. Marshall and Lily have gotten engaged in the pilot. Marshall and Lily getting engaged is the inciting incident of the entire series, right? And here we are with yet another ripple of that. And the ripple this time is kind of like, where are we going to live? Where are we going to raise kids? Have we agreed upon this stuff? Have we talked about this stuff? And it is always amazing in real life and in this episode, how much you kind of haven't covered as you're barreling toward marrying someone or you've already married someone. I won't say who this is because I don't know if it's religious based material. So I don't want to speak for anybody else. But one of our writers, she said that it was only once she was pregnant with their first child that I forget who was on what side of the debate, but she or her husband, one of them said like, well, should we raise, I know neither of us is that religious, but we'll obviously be raising our baby, this little girl we're having to believe in God. And then the other one of them says like, I don't believe in God. And then the first one of them goes, what? And it was the first time they realized that, and they've been together for years and we're about to have a child, if I'm getting the story right. And it was like, that was the moment they realized that one of them was an atheist and one of them believed like in God and an afterlife and all this. And it was one of those moments where I was like, how have we not talked about this in the 5 years we've been together?
Yeah.
And it's also like that, right?
It's also like, we have these ideas that love will triumph, and love will save the day, and love will smooth over everything. And I believe that the base of it has to be that kind of love and attraction and intimacy and all that. But the truth is, building a life with someone is really, you're creating a startup together, to be very unsexy about it. Like, you're creating a company that has its own kind of rules and ethos, and you have to hammer out the kind of details. Some of it, if you marry, some of it can be a little unspoken. Like, my wife and I both went to college. It's not going to be a debate whether we want our kids to go to college. You know what I mean? Like, that's like kind of baked into our thing.
That's
but there are other
value,
things
right?
I'm sure we'll have to navigate, and we continue to. So I think this episode's like a really great, especially because I think with a kid on the way, or the potential of a kid on the way, those questions take on a new urgency, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And Marshall, of course, doesn't know that until the very end of the episode, that's what's been going on this whole time, which I also like. We, the audience, there's that kind of the dramatic irony of we know and he doesn't know.
Yes. Well, that's also that's good writing, because we and Lily know something that Marshall doesn't know. So they're actually living in kind of two different universes. And there's something very sweet about Marshall wanting Lily to just like delight in the Minnesota snow with him. Like, just like, isn't this great? Isn't this fun? Like, isn't my family wonderful? And they are wonderful in their own giant kind of way.
He wants her to be part of this thing that she's kind of not, right? You can't just parachute in and you're just 100% part of the family. You can love these people. You can love them. They're the people that created and brought you the love of your life, right? Marshall comes from them. Like where Marshall says, I am Funyuns. I am mayonnaise. Like, you're going to have to love those parts of me too. Because it's kind of true, right? You need to be that accepted, radically accepted by your partner in some ways. But your partner also gets to have opinions and say, I'm not moving to St. Cloud and having kids grow up wailing at each other with hockey sticks while trying to put a basketball through a hoop, which, to answer your earlier question, is completely invented. No one around the writer's table was like, hey, I did basket ball. That was just completely made up.
It's almost like basket ball is the cockamouse of sports.
Yes, that's right. An ungodly combination that is fascinating and disturbing.
When you marry someone, you have to take a real hard look at their family, because you're like, I'm marrying that. I'm marrying it's harrowing. It's part of the like horror of being a human, is like, we tend to turn towards that. As we get older, we like cleave a little more than is comfortable for some of us towards how we grew up. I mean, I think that, you can, like I said, like it's like the negotiation between, okay, I'm going to keep this, but not all of it's conscious, so sometimes like our family stuff just comes out. Like, I've been feeling this a lot lately. Like, when you feel your dad in you and you're like, wow, that's that thing that I used to see my dad. Like, even just the way I'm sitting on a couch, or my friend Michael, said, exactly. My friend Michael said, in his childhood, the thing that drove him the most crazy about his father was he could not get out of a seat or a couch without going, just this groan of sitting down and standing up out of a seat. And he was like, you don't have to make noises every time. He said the moment he turned 40, he couldn't do it either. Just audible, sitting and standing.
He's standing up to blow out the birthday cake for his 40th birthday party. And it's so it begins. Love the thing I love about the tall Lily's the short person in a land of giants is it makes a fairy tale almost out of this thing that's actually very true, which of course are a parable. Like, of course, that's parables and fairy tales all come from deeper truths. And the deeper truth is, like, she's in her 20s. She's just gotten engaged. She's now really saying, I'm trying to become a grown-up. And she's saying, where do I fit? Where do I fit in life? Where do I fit? And the feeling of not fitting into a family of giants, and you're just this tiny being in this like land of giants, like, it feels very sort of fairy tale supernatural in this great way. That's what I love about the storyline. I think Chris and Phil as animation geniuses kind of like really enjoyed that piece of it too, and having those visuals, right? Having like, it's visually funny. It's funny on mute, but it's something true is underneath that, and that's always my favorite thing when you can make a visual metaphor out of the true thing. And this Lily's displacement, you felt it in every frame of that story.
It's also funny because Allie and Lily are both like formidable characters and not recessive. Like Lily's not a small receding
small
character, right? Like she's small, but she's got like might and strength and power.
Yes.
But I mean, you're right. The visual can't be beat. It's fantastic.
Yes. Very much based on my wife too, who is 5 feet tall, but formidable, very strong person. And I think that's why my wife was like, Allison Hannigan, cast her.
We can ask Chris and Phil if this is true. So there is a short film called My Wife's Relations by Buster Keaton from the early 1920s. And in it, he sits on the right side of a table. He is 5'7". The entire table is filled with tall people around him who make mush of him over the course of the short film. And I know that Chris knows Buster and is into Buster Keaton. Last Man on Earth is a very Buster Keaton-y kind of show, especially in those first more silent episodes.
And I've seen that short film because of you, Al.
And I do wonder if there was any inspiration. That's my fan question of the day, and but I'm actually emailing and asking them that now.
I mean, I remember being in the room. I can't remember if specifically that piece was pitched by them or not. It seems like the kind of thing they would pitch. I can't remember, but yeah, and all the ways it was shot and scripted, the turkey, the huge turkey, like all of that stuff. So many of those touches were them. So maybe it was that. And I remember seeing that Buster Keaton short in college with you, Alec. Sidebar: Alec is a Buster Keaton aficionado.
Fanatic.
I mean, I think that's a hardcore super fan. And it's what an honor to be even potentially compared to Buster Keaton.
I again was struck by how great Allie is her breakdown in the convenience store is so good.
So good.
So
hilarious and real, and you feel her. Yeah, she
has this ability to like be so emotionally full but hit every joke in a way that doesn't sound like she's trying to hit jokes. Like it was very good. And I was incredibly moved by the jail scene. Like there's something, I don't know, I'm sure this is overthinking it, but like marriage at its worst can feel like a kind of jail. Or that was always my fear of it, was that it would feel like you were trapped. But in a way, them sitting in that jail cell, they actually find their freedom together, right? Like they find this way to be together in a way that is that liberates them from at least Lily's nightmare of it. And also realizing that, like, yes, she's with a guy who grew up eating 7-layer salad and playing Basque ice ball, but he also like is her man. You know, he's like totally. he's the guy for her.
Yeah, there's that great line in there where he's like, you know, I'll tell you right now, I don't want us to become just like my family. And he says, and no offense, but I don't want to be exactly like yours either. And she does this great little take. So it's this little cutaway to her kind of like nodding, like, yeah, I get it. Like my family's crazy too. We didn't even know all the ways her family was crazy yet, right? We took many seasons to kind of get to Chris Elliott and exploring her weird upbringing. We didn't know all that stuff yet, but she just knew all families are flawed. And it's sort of a nice grown-up moment where they say, let's agree that we'll make our own version of our family. And in a way, it's like it's almost like they got married there in that moment in that jail cell. It's like, that's the agreement, right? That's the life we're going to build together. And it's very sweet. I love how what you said about her doing jokes and they don't feel like jokes. A great one, and I'm convinced, I think this was a Chris and Phil line, was the thing of like, we you know, I grew up just fine in New York. And in fact, we grew up just fine in New York. And then we grew to the proper size and then we stopped growing. I love that line so much. And you sort of cut away to 7 foot tall Ned Ralsma as Marshall's brother, who's great in that episode. Those two brothers are really funny.
So funny, the idea like growing past a certain size is an indecent choice to make. It sounds like Oscar Wilde or something.
They chose to be 7 feet tall.
Yeah, like stop it. It's gross.
And this old man, he must admit he fell in love with you in New York City.
And now, commercials. End of commercials. Back to show.
This is Jordana had the thing where she said, you and I talk about this episode, and then I record my question, but you and Craig like talk about what I was going to talk about, so it looks like I just haven't been listening to the episode. She comes in, so we have talked about this a little, but I like the way she phrases this. We are now at a section of the show that we're very lovingly and simply calling Questions and Observations from a clinical psychologist and relationship expert who's never seen How I Met Your Mother and also happens to be married to Josh.
It's too succinct. It's too short and sweet. I think we should make it longer.
Emily, maybe we'll do the acronym of what that is so we can just start calling it by that.
I think our co-producer Doug has it written down. I don't know that helps anyone.
Because we are an acronymic kind of show.
There's your t-shirt. That acronym.
You want me to put it in the chat?
Yeah, put it in the chat. Let's try to read it.
Put it in the chat. That was Doug, our co-producer.
I don't even know where the chat is. Oh, there it is. There's a chat. Look at that. This is the show, guys. This is behind the scenes. This is how the podcast gets made.
We don't rehearse this whole podcast, if we're being honest.
we don't. Oh, there it is. All right. All right, Josh.
Quafak par un shim what bimches.
What if with that I just disappeared? It was this incantation, and Josh just made. I mean, a cloud is a poof. It's like fuck. Say it again. Maybe he'll come back.
Fak per un shim yim awat bim.
Shades of Temple of Doom. Oh my God. There's definitely some curse words in there, I think, too. I don't know.
It does sound like an ancient incantation.
It does.
It's time for us. I'm just going to play Jordana's Quack Quack Pair of now.
This episode tackles a real hot button issue, in-laws. I personally feel blessed with truly incredible in-laws, and I'm not just saying that because they're possibly listening right now. Josh and I have families whose values really align, but how to manage in-laws when values and customs do not align is a topic that my patients are constantly bringing up. And what I say is that family is something most people get to do twice. You have your family of origin, and then you have the family you create. And that can pose a real dilemma, which you see Marshall and Lily navigating. What do you take from your family of origin without it impinging on the family you want to create with this new person, versus what do you leave behind without feeling like it's a betrayal of the family you came from? And Carter and Craig, I think you very wisely show here that partnership is hard. Merging lives is hard. You're not just idealizing what comes after you've found the person you want to be with. You make it very clear that being single is hard for Ted, but in this episode, I think you're really saying partnership is as well. It's just different kinds of hard. And at the end of the day, it's really about what kind of hard feels most aligned for you.
She's so much better at talking than me. Should she host the podcast? Do you want to fire me? Because she's just so good. Dear God.
We were talking, what she, I think I mentioned this, but there's this Ram Dass thing where Ram Dass was this great spiritual teacher that I got to know a little bit. And he said that the question more people ask him than any other question is, should I get married? Should I marry this person? Should I get married at all? And he said his answer was always the same. It doesn't matter. He said, if you get married, you're going to have these problems. If you don't get married, you're going to have these problems. It's like problems either way. So yeah. I think we think I could make a certain decision. This is what Ted does. If I just get this partnership decision right, the rest of my life will be struggle-free, or it'll all work out. And my experience of life is it's just new problems. Every opportunity is just new and somewhat interesting problems. The mind loves a juicy problem to solve. But I think her larger point is so well taken about merging lives and it's perilous. It's tricky.
Yeah. And I always think of your best friend in childhood is the person who could agree with you on the rules of the universe you were creating. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we're going to play this game. We've got our little Star Wars guys or whatever we got. Or we're going to play this game, invent a sport. We're going to pretend to be the characters of a movie. And you have that person that you sort of just can do improv with. and you sort of weirdly mostly agree on the rules of this universe you're creating.
Right.
That's essentially what you then try to do
Right.
when you have
It's
a
like-
partner, a romantic
it's like-
partner later.
It's like both our imaginations took us into the same room.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like inhabiting that together. And there's something so satisfying about play being that level. There's a kind of like fundamental agreement or handshake around how we're playing.
Yes.
And that's not, it's true. It's not unlike marriage, you know, that like, I think a lot of marriages fail because you ultimately realize you were inhabiting different universes. You were inhabiting different, you know, value systems or, just even the shock of like, wait, you believe in God? Like there's certain things that people just don't discuss. I mean, my wife and I, like, I mean, we've never stopped having like a very big conversation, but like, we're not exactly small talk people. Like we jumped right into big talk. So we covered an enormous amount of ground very quickly of what was meaningful to us.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Craig, that honestly, it's how I felt about you the first week we met. This idea that we had inhabited the same made up universes. A couple miles apart from each other, but somehow it was like, oh, there's another one.
Same reference. We might as well have been hanging out watching the same shit. We dove right in. This is Alec and I meeting in the very beginning of the first year of college at Wesleyan University, and we were right into the conversation as if we'd been having it the whole time.
Right. Because you had been having it with Andrew and your friends. I'd been having it with Joel and my friends, and all of a sudden I was like, oh. Well, let's just do that. Let's just continue that one. And it's probably also what you and Carter connected on early on, also with music, comedy.
Yeah, especially with music at first. Yeah. And it's you those moments with your friends that become your forever friends are as precious as meeting the one. And it's the same mechanism. Marshall's wisdom. Marshall has been this goofball the whole episode, right? He's out there playing basketball. He's not really picking up that Lily is having a minor nervous breakdown now that she's supposed to be a Mrs. Erickson. But the moment he hears she might be pregnant, it's like he snaps awake into this like higher level of adulthood. He goes, we're going to make our own life. We're going to make our own family. It's not going to be slavishly like mine or emulate the craziness of yours. We get to do our own improv game, and we can yes-and each other in that improv game. And that's the best part of couplehood, right? When you can do that.
Yeah. And not to, I want to also say that I was also struck by how deeply good Jason is in that jailhouse scene.
So good.
So simple.
Grown up.
Really, there's just like, I don't know, there was something about that scene where you go, oh, these people are right together. Like, I get why these people are together, you know?
Yeah.
They weren't just thrown together by sitcom writers. Like this makes sense. Like you guys created characters that make sense together, and that's not easy to do. You know,
it's one of the most adult he is so far in the series. You know what I mean? He is silly. He is singing, being a lawyer better be awesome. He is, and this is a moment where he sort of promises to her, he promises away her fears by saying, we're going to define stuff on our own. And I really love him in that. He's a grown-up in that moment. He's been a kid in the episode up till there, and he turns into a grown-up in that jail cell of all places. And he played that great. The two of them were so great. It's just the kind of thing you watch that scene. I remember shooting that, and you just watch that and you go, I think we got a TV show here. I think this has legs. Because you can do a whole story about them going to Minnesota, and we're out of home base, right? We're not in New York. We're not talking about dating. It's not Ted trying to land the one. It's Marshall and Lily in a jail cell in St. Cloud, and the show still works. That's a good sign. That felt good.
I also love Jordana's point about that you get to do family twice. And the first one you really don't have a say in, and the second one is choice. You make a choice. I mean, so you could argue you don't make as much of a choice. Like there's the imago, there's the kind of patterning you actually choose a partner that mirrors something about your childhood with like a little bit of an upgrade, hopefully. But the show, I forget who said this, but like all TV is about family. Did you ever hear that?
Absolutely.
Like every TV show is about family. Yeah. I mean, some of them are literally about family, like Sopranos, but Cheers is a family. Like it's the family at the bar. How I Met Your Mother's a family around a booth. Like
I've been rewatching MASH, which is people thrown together in Korea, and they're a family. People that had never met. Yeah, it's so great.
It's like the DNA of television is like families gathered around this box.
Yes.
So it's always like reflecting back various notions or forms of family. And that's what makes it work.
Yeah, and I think that's why this show lives on, because this show does give that vibe. And I think at a time when people really want to feel that feeling of community, and it's not so easy to find.
Wait, we have not talked about the B story.
That you're in. Weren't you in that B story?
I was in
feel
it.
Like I saw
we
you
haven't
in
talked
there.
about it. Real quick. I mean, it's so funny. Those two guest stars, I remember being delightful, really funny.
Yeah, they were really funny.
It's so funny. Like, one thing that really struck me about it is this notion of like piety or outward kind of virtue. And I think there's something, again, I will subject every moment of this show to like the most rigorous college lit reading, class. But there's something about anyone, I have found this in life, people who are outwardly pious are not quite to be trusted. Like, it's like, there's something about like the people that are the do-gooders in the episode are actually like pretty ethically slippery.
They're slippery.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's all before sort of Instagram sort of performative piety beginning. This is 2005. But if Instagram existed, those people that were stealing the food would have 100% had pictures of themselves nobly working,
serving
with
the
no
less
asterisks.
fortunate. Yeah. But it's also it's kind of Ted's thing about dating, like, especially if you're meeting people. I think we've talked about this, but like, if you're meeting people that you weren't introduced to by friends or people who don't know your friends, you're just meeting strangers in the world. And you're like, I don't know if you're a good person or not. Like, I don't know if you behave honorably when no one's looking. But it's such a funny reveal that Barney's there and he's like the top.
So funny. And it's a mystery. This show thrives on mysteries. Even in the B story of this one, there's this mystery. How is Barney here? What's actually happening here? And the fact that that storyline ends in a strip club on Thanksgiving and Marshall and Lily's ends in a jail cell, and both stories feature public urination. I must admit, I took a little pride rewatching it. I was like, well constructed. I was trying to remember, we must have realized that like Lily's going to have to pee on a stick as part of the story. So why not have her get arrested for doing that in a weird spot? And then it must have been like at some point we're like, okay, what crime could Barney have committed that he got sentenced to community service? We're like, it has to be public urination. So there's a double P in the episode. To those writing students out there, you want at least 2 urinations per script. You're welcome. This is my TED talk, my Ted Mosby talk.
That's so good. That's so good. Oh, there's also something that Neil made me laugh of, like, remember when he in Slutty Pumpkin kind of like he put on the other costume and tried to be like, yeah, these guys are all jerks. He also has like a way he fronts as like, hey, I'm a do-gooder. Like he's got his
Kendall, these guys
is,
are cool. They can stay. He's so comfortable in the ruse.
He's so comfortable.
He's so comfortable in it.
He's so like not shocked to see them. Like they're so shocked to see them. And he's like, hey guys.
Okay.
His casualness. That really made me laugh.
He's really funny the way he played all that. And his picture of himself as Employee of the Month. It is a very funny B story. It has a great ending. It has great intercuts between those storylines. Not just the double PP arrest, but just like great. Those stories actually fit together very nicely. And it's a great B story. It's just like this was Marshall and Lily road trip movie, right? It's this. You were trapped in the B story in this one.
I remember though. I remember really enjoying the food pantry, like shooting that stuff. Yeah, and I think there's sometimes like pleasure in being the B story. You know what I mean? Like
the pressure's off. You just
you work a little bit less, so you have like a little more time away from the stage.
That's funny.
And you get to like come in and just like be funny, because B stories are generally like the comedic, like more comedic. So you're not having to carry like a heavy emotional load. But I remember having really like a fun time with Kobe, and those guest stars were just like pretty delightful. And I remember enjoying this episode. I remember being like, it's fun to be on this TV show.
Throwing portobello mushrooms at people. It had good energy. It just had good energy. And it's Thanksgiving. It was our first Thanksgiving episode. We went on to a bunch more. But it was our first time we got to end a Thanksgiving episode. And when that song by the 88, that again, Chris and Phil were like friends with the band, the 88, and they were like, we got to use this song, You Belong to Me. and that was their pitch. And that song's so beautiful. And that song playing through that montage of Lily finally coming back and fitting into that family, reassured that she and Marshall are going to make their own family, and Ted and Robin and Barney at the strip club. And that song playing over that, I got choked up watching it. I don't know if it was just me feeling nostalgic, but
didn't we bring the 88 on to play at one of our holiday parties? It might have been.
I think we did. Yeah, I think we did. But they're the band in the Best Prom Ever episode. We liked them so much. We liked using their music so much that when we later used them in this season, they're the band.
Keith Sledderall, wasn't that his name?
Yeah. And they were great guys. And
totally great.
We had them do a weird cover of an acoustic cover of Mr. Roboto off of Mr. Roboto playing at the strip club that we were going to end the episode on, but it was deemed, I think, too weird, but it's great. I don't remember if we ever used it or released it or did anything with it, but it was great. But You Belong to Me ending that episode is just lovely. And it's the first hymn Thanksgiving.
All right, so as we wrap up, I'd like to tell you this. First of all, I did email Chris and Phil in the middle of talking about this Buster Keaton theory. Phil has this to say. His answer was, were you thinking about this Buster Keaton scene? His answer was only subconsciously, but then they said this episode, he said, was mostly from going to a girlfriend's house for the weekend and realizing for the first time that I was not from America, I was from Miami.
Ah, that's good. That's good. Yes. I mean, everybody in that room had some story about feeling so displaced visiting a spouse's or significant other's place. I forgot that Phil had that. That's a hilarious way to put that. I love that so much.
All right. So to wrap this up, I think all three of us, and you two especially, so many things we've run into so many coincidences, so many people. I saw you here, I did this. Just the How I Met Your Mother universe is just so big that we crossed some interesting paths. Josh, when you recommended that we listen to Magic or Math from This American Life, which we did link to in an episode, a couple episodes ago, had you listened to it recently?
No, it's been a couple years.
All right. So I'm going to play a clip from it, which is a little mind-blowing. It's just a little moment here from Magic or Math. Here we go. He's setting up the story that he's going to tell in this part of This American Life.
I'm going to set up this date. I mean, you're just made for each other. You have to meet each other. And she was determined to make that happen.
Maybe you can see where this is going. This is, in fact, my very own How I Met Your Father story.
I just remembered it as you began to play it because I have listened. Josh recommended that. I listened to it maybe a year ago when Josh recommended it, and I remember loving that. There's like a little nugget.
I did not remember that at all. Well, that phrase. I mean, you guys injected that into the vein of culture. Like that is a phrase people toss around.
Yeah, among others. And when they come back, it always trips me out. And I think people are starting to not even know maybe where some of it began.
So this is a letter we received. And if you would like to send us a written letter or a voice note, just go to howwemadeyyourmother.com, contact, and then it should be pretty clear. But we love hearing from you what How I Met Your Mother means to you, any sort of How I Met Your Mother related stories you want to share with us. Maybe they'll make it onto the air. We have a great time sifting through these and reading these. This is a wonderful, beautiful letter we received from Declan from Australia. And here it is. Hi, Craig and Josh. If you read this, I've put this as a general question.
General question?
But it may fit equally well for episode 9, Belly Full of Turkey, as that's the first episode I saw and how I started watching the show with my dad. The show means more to me than I can express for many reasons, but mostly because I watched it with my dad. I have something I want to share with you both, regardless of whether it makes it onto the podcast. I was introduced to Hymnium through my dad, who happened to be watching episode 9, Belly Full of Turkey, one night. I was maybe 14 or 15 at the time, and I walked in on the scene where Ted was talking to Tracy, the stripper, and then said, "And that, kids, was How I Met Your Mother." My dad was roaring with laughter at this, but I didn't get the joke, so I asked him to explain it. Instead of explaining it, he suggested I sit down to watch the first episode, made us both a cup of coffee, and started a new tradition for the two of us. We watched many shows together as one of our ways of bonding, but Hymnium was the first one. We would often sit together after each episode, drinking our coffee and talking about the episode or discussing theories about the show, who the mother was, what was with the pineapple, and why future Ted was telling the story anyway. Looking back, watching Him Yim together marked the start of the shift in my relationship with my dad to the one we would have as adults. Now, 17 years after watching Him Yim with my dad, I resonate strongly with future Ted and his stories. I'm increasingly finding myself telling stories about my dad since he died and sharing who he was because it's such an inseparable part of who I am. The memories of watching the show with my dad will always make Him Yim a show I keep coming back to. But it's the honest and raw emotion of the characters in the show wearing its heart so openly on its sleeve that makes it so important. You all managed to create something magic by having a comedy show that also demonstrates to everyone watching that whatever you're feeling and experiencing is just so very human. Thank you so much for creating a show that means so much to me and so many others. Thanks so much, Declan. That's really lovely.
Wow, that's beautiful. My God, thank you for sharing that with us. How special. I can't just, I mean, it's so humbling. It's such an honor that the show could be that for somebody, and that they could be part of your memories with your father, and that it could be part of your growing up process in that way. And that's incredible.
They should add like a 6th love language to the love language book. Like How I Met Your Mother. Sharing How I Met Your Mother is a love language for people. Yeah.
It never doesn't blow my mind when we hear something like that, and the generosity of fans to share those types of stories with us means everything. Thanks, you guys.
I am guilty. Please acquit me. All sins are forgiven in New York City.
How We Made Your Mother is hosted and executive produced by Josh Radnor and Craig Thomas. The show was produced by me, Alec Lev, and our co-producer is Doug Matica. Our audio producer and mixer is Alex Reeves at Point of Blue Studios, and our digital content producer, aka Gen Z Master, is Emily Blumberg. Artwork by John Morrow. Please follow, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. It really does help the show. Our theme song is NYC by our own Josh Radnor, with additional music by Craig Thomas and Andrew Majewski. Special thanks to Lola Kennedy and Elliot Connors. Visit howwemadeyourmother.com to sign up for our Substack mailing list and for links to our social media. You can also click on the contact page to send us an email or a voice message. Your stories and questions are an important part of the show. Want some merch? Click on the store link or go to howyougetyourmerch.com. Subscribe to Josh Radnor's newsletters on Substack. Order Craig Thomas's debut novel at craigthomaswriter.com/novel. And you can subscribe to my Dead Fathers Society, also on Substack. To learn about how you make a difference, this show's ongoing campaign to raise money for congenital heart disease research, check out the Make a Difference tab at the top of our website. This episode was made possible by the support of Backyard Ventures. People will, in fact, dance.
The real question, it just hit me. Am I in love with you, or just New York City?